two main purposes. First is to identify a cheap and easy way to use our existing equipment to plant our multi-species crops. Also, growers are not keen to need to work up the whole block to plant their fallow crops, so we're looking at zonal and minimum tillage options, as well as to try and identify what the actual benefits of these multi-species crops are. You know, is our 3 to 4 month fallow period really a long enough time to make a difference to a 5, 6, 7 year monoculture? Then of course, what do we plant? What's going to have the biggest benefit? What's going to grow in our wet season? And what's going to grow through our trash blanket? So through the project and through discussions with growers who are keen on these multi-species cropping, we ended up buying, on the left, this yellow, it's a 5-hose outlet air seeder. And then on this side, we've got a little electric, like a spinner, a spreader. So we wanted to buy something that was cheap, it's not heavy, it's not bulky, and things that we could move from one implement to another implement. We didn't want anything that was fixed to one machine or to one farm. So we wanted it to be fairly transportable. Okay, so we then came up with this mix. So this is a 12-species mix. We wanted to get a range of different soil health options. That's why we've got such a big variety of our crops here. So you can see in the mix, we've tried to avoid anything we thought would cause a problem down the track. So there's no lab, there's no forage sorghum, there's none of those hard-seeded varieties that will become a weed, in a year or two. You'll also notice there's no grass in that mix. So we wanted, if we can spray over the top of this mix with something like a grass-selective herbicide, something like Verdict, that would take out sugarcane, take out guinea grass, any other grass weed problems, and it wouldn't impact any of these crops. So later on you'll see why that's important. It's just showing you that nothing's changed. They haven't slowed down, it's just business as usual, off they go. When he needs to fill up with the seed, he just gets out and does it. So this is a seed. There's a control box that we've set up in the cab, so he can switch the machine on and off when he's turning around on headlands, or here when he's waiting for the haul outs. So you'll be able to see when he switches it back on. See, and there's a seed coming out. So mainly we can see the large soybean seed here. A lot of the other seed is just tiny, we won't be able to see it. So this is another site behind the harvester. I'll just show you, it's a bit of a sequence. You can see the cane's coming back, the crop's coming up. See the dark cane there? It's all coming up. Now they've sprayed the cane now with the Verdict. The cane sprayed out. That block had a lot of guinea grass as well, so it's all sprayed out, and the multi-species is really taken over. We haven't had to work any soil up, and we've planted a fallow crop. It's got a full trash blanket, no trash has been disturbed, all before the wet season. It's full trash blanket, no disruption. Your harvester driver's just planted your crop for you. It's simple, it's cheap, and it's easy. And so far it's worked. This is a wavy disc here. Again, he set up his air seeder and it's coming down. Where is it? So here's the hose here, and the spreader disc is basically throwing it right onto the wavy discs. So they're just going to work it into the ground, and then he's got his roller to go over. So he's working 3 beds there, so he's not touching the wheel spacing. Remember that it had 5 outlets in that air seeder, so we have actually blocked off 2. So he's only got 3 hoses running, 1 to each row. So here's it's coming up here, still got the trash blanket in the wheel spacing, and it's taken off. Next up's a power harrow. Similar again. This guy Alan, he didn't want the spreader disc. He just got dropping the seed here out the hose. It's going to get a harrow, and he's working the bed that the tractor's straddling, and then the 2 half beds. Then he comes back the other side and finishes off that half bed. So for this one, we blocked off one of the hoses. So each bed effectively is getting the 2 hose outlet. So this is not Alan, this is the neighbour down the road. He's come for a sticky beak, and that's something we've really noticed with this project, is that there's a lot of interest. You know, people are hearing about multi-species, and we hear about what's happening overseas, and we hear about what's happening in other industries. And so there seems to be real genuine interest in the results. People coming and having a look. And this is Alan here. See the crops taking off. And then, you know, these are the messages, text messages I get. He sends me this, you know, the sunnies are out, it's looking good. So it's all exciting. Okay, so this one's a little bit different because this is actually getting seeded into some bare worked up soil. So the grower roughly forms up some beds, and then he comes through with this renovator and sort of does the final shape and form, and then in this case he's also seeded. So we've got the hoses coming out in front of the machine, so the seed's getting pushed into the beds. So he's doing the same as the power harrow. He's got the one bed that there's tractor straddling, and then the 2 half beds. Like, it's not like the 2 neat rows of soybean or that 1 neat row of sugarcane. It's something different that, you know, it's like a shift in mindset that's okay, that's what we want. So this grower is actually in the middle of changing row spacing, so he's going from 1.7 metre to 2.4. So this block has been well and truly worked. He's formed his rough beds, he's gone over with that bed renovator, formed them and spread the seed. And there's some drone footage here. So you can see the block, you know, it is hilly and it's sloping, and the beds are quite high. So having that adequate soil cover, you know, really was essential in this situation. So while it looks messy, it's really served its purpose before our wet season. You know, filtering out the soil that was in the water samples sort of roughly showed that where the bare fallow was, it's losing, you know, double the amount of soil as where we had a cover crop. And that's probably a very conservative figure, considering that it kept filling up, like we were missing samples in that bare fallow. So that's obviously a concern. And, you know, we talk about multi-species having all these soil health benefits, but I think one of the big benefits we've seen is this, you know, this cover and this stopping the sediment loss. You know, we need to think about, if we're going to plant soybean, also including something like the Jap millet with the soybean to provide that bit extra soil cover.